Hi, so the next phase in designing our user interface is to be able to add a new part to the catalog. So you can see here I've designed a new view controller view with the title bar of new part, and I'm going to take in the part number, the name, the description, and the reorder quantity, which is really the information that we need for a new part. And then I've got an add new part button. And the four fields I have here are simple text fields. I've retasked our Say Hi button from before and just made this an adding button with the style of add, and you can see that here. This is an identifier of add, and then this is segued to our new view controller, and the segue has an identifier of adding. So if we look at our adding view controller itself, we can see that we have, let's look at this. Okay, we have a protocol. And we're going to use this protocol to call back to the parts list view controller when the user actually clicks on that adding button. So we've got one required method, user did add part, name, description, and reorder, as you might expect. I've got properties for all of my text fields. Sorry about that. I've got properties for all of my text fields, as well as having a delegate property, an ID property, that is weak for my adding delegate. And then I have two actions. User did finish entering text, and all that one's going to do is dismiss the keyboard on the text views when the user clicks on the Done button. And then button add tapped, which is going to actually just call through to the delegate. So we'll look at that here quickly. So the first one we've done after the synthesis, button add tapped, we want to make sure that the user has entered a name, a part number, and a reorder quantity initially for this part. We really don't care that much about the description, but the name, the number, and the reorder quantity need to be in there before the delegate method gets called. And of course, if they're not, the else case it'll fall through to the else, and then we just pop up an alert view that says error, part must have a part number, name, and reorder quantity. So this will tell the user, this just indicates to the user some sort of friendly message that says, oh, these three things have to be there, and then we show that alert. So if all three fields are filled in other words, if their texts are not equal to an empty string, then we call the delegate method, and that's all we really have to do. Remember, with delegation, we don't know, or the adding view controller, I should say, doesn't know the destination view controller here, or the destination for the delegation. It doesn't know its own delegate. The parts view controller will have to adopt the adding delegate and then respond to its to the actual method user did add part and so forth. User finished entering text is just simple. We resign the first responder on the sender. And this, of course, is bound to all of the text fields. So now what happens when we get the delegate call back to the parts list view controller? Well, the parts list view controller, as I already said, has adopted the adding delegate protocol. And then I've also defined a new symbolic constant, adding controller, which is just defined as segue.destination view controller, but I've done a downcast of that ID type object to adding view controller pointer. The only place this is going to be used is when I know where the segue is, as you'll see shortly, so I can define it this way. And again, the reason I'm defining these compile time constants is because it just saves some typing in our program and somewhat makes it a little bit easier to read as we're going through and analyzing the code. So now in parts list view controller, I need to in view did load, I'm going to not only be able to add, and I've already got the button for that on the storyboard, but I also want to be able to delete rows. So we're doing kind of 2-in-1 here in this demo. So I take the existing array of the right bar button item, and I just add an element, the self add button item. And then, of course, I have to terminate an array declaration with nil. So then, in the adding delegate, here is user did add part. And here's how we're going to respond to it. I run out to the parts catalog, and then in the parts catalog, I just call add part with number, and I pass through the values I get. For the bin number in the catalog, I'm just going to put new part, and this is okay. When we add a new part that's not going into inventory, we're just going to put it into a default bin called new part. Then I want to pop off the adding view controller from the navigation controller stack. So I do that. And then I reload the data on the table view. So you can see that adding is a pretty simple and straightforward function. If I don't reload the data on the table view will not reflect the new data in the parts catalog. Now, how does the parts list view controller actually know to respond to this delegate method? Well, it knows to respond because in prepare for Segway sender, we have set the adding controller delegate to self, which is parts list view controller. And now that hookup is made. And again, I've used that symbolic constant adding controller within that prepare for Segway sender method. And the symbolic constant is Segway destination view controller, which has actually been downcast to a type adding view controller. Now, in addition to just simply adding this edit bar button item, I need to actually do the configuration for deleting or editing the cell. So in table view commit editing style, which is already provided for us in the template, it's just commented out, we take the comments away from that. And in the section that reads if editing style is equal to UI table view cell editing style delete, which is what we're interested in, we know that the edit button item is going to trigger the delete opening action. And we also know that this template code already contains code for deleting the cell from the table view. But what we are responsible to do here is to delete the content from the backing store, which is our parts catalog. So we check the index path that we're trying to delete, and we get all keys out of the parts catalog, and then we get the objected index for that index path and row. And then with that information, we delete the part with that key NS string as its key in the parts catalog. So again, main controller parts catalog, delete part key. And then we can go ahead and follow the boilerplate code from then on. So now let's just check and make sure everything's running. I'll run this. Everything gets saved and we have a successful build. That's always good news. So again, we have square and triangle and circle with their descriptions. And if I say edit, I get the deleting interface. So that button is working. If I delete a square, I get this button. And then of course I can also do a swipe delete, and that works as well. And then my table view refreshed, and this is actually the content of my backing store. Let's add a part. So I get my new interface. I'm going to say part number is, well actually first let's test the alert. Yep, part must have a part number, name, and reorder quantity. So that's working. So now let's put a part number in here. We'll say PN004. And name, let's call this rectangle. If I could spell. TANGLE. And we'll leave the description out because we want to test that function as well. But remember that we left the description out because we're using the description in the cell content. So we want to make sure that that doesn't break. Let's put in a reorder quantity of, 30. And then we'll click done. And that will dismiss our keyboard, resign first responder on the text field. And then we'll add a new part. And we get rectangle, but it doesn't have a subtitle. Actually it does, but it's the empty string because that's where we put it. So for the next step, in the next demo, what we want to do is be able to select a row and get some detail information, or all the detail information about this row in the parts catalog. Thank you very much.